everything, right? The more I know about them, the better I can coach them. And one of the things I started to see was there were a lot of differences in the way things were being structured for them versus the way they were structured for me, that my parents who were professional provided that environment, the way things were structured for Riley, the way things have been structured for his peers, for Fritz, Tiafoe, Tommy Paul, all these Americans that are now in the top 100. And these differences were things that I realized were actually holding players back. They were holding these juniors back, and even the adults as well, from having a good chance of maximizing their potential. And if there's one thing I've learned now after spending quite a few years coaching, is that there's not many different ways to maximize your potential. There's certain things you need to have in place, a certain kind of structure, and there's just not a lot of wiggle room, right? If you don't have those things in place, it's going to be hard for you to catch up to you're just not going to catch up to the players that are doing those things. So, but the problem is that coaches in academies are the ones who put those things in place. They're the ones that create that environment for the players. So we're relying on them to do everything correct. And players, for the most part, become as good as their environment allows them to be. If it's a great environment, it's going to give them a great chance to grow and maximize their potential. If it's a bad environment, they're going to struggle, and it doesn't matter how hard they work. But the hard part is for parents is that they don't know any better, right? Because they're not supposed to know any better, right? That's why we're the coaches. We're the experts, right? They come to us to provide this environment to help fuel this passion of the player to grow it towards where they would like. And the problem's been that these environments that coaches and academies have structured are not good enough. And they're actually the ones holding players back. They're failing the player, but the player doesn't know it. What the player sees and what parents see is that they're just not winning as much. They're struggling to reach their goals. It's frustrating, and they don't know what to do. And that's a very frustrating feeling to have. But it's also been very painful for me because for the last 4 years, I've been full-time on the road. I come home a little bit and I try to provide some advice, but there's just not much I can do about it. You know, I know that these players can be better than what they're showing, but it takes the environment, and I don't spend enough time with them. So I didn't know what to do until I thought of this idea, this company, where I want to help players get into a more efficient learning program where they can improve faster, that will help them maximize their potential and have a better chance of reaching their goals. Because from what I've seen is once players start to improve, right, and they see the improvements that they're looking for, they're gonna enjoy the game more. It's gonna motivate them to work even harder, which brings even bigger improvements in their game, which brings even better results. It becomes a chain reaction. But the most important thing is to provide that environment to start the chain reaction. Once you get the chain reaction going, it really flows really well from there. So in order for me to do this and to help provide this environment, it's important for me to first, like I said, I have to get to know the player's environment. I need to know what they're doing, how they're doing it, how many practice matches a week are they playing? Are they not playing practice matches a week? That's something I'm hearing doesn't happen enough. And then I need to watch them play. And I need to watch them compete, not just play practice matches. One of the things I've found out is coaches are just not going to watch their tennis matches. And no player plays the same in matches as they do in practice. You put them under pressure and they do different things. But if the coach isn't there to see it, they're relying on the players and the parents and people who aren't experts in their feelings. And that's wrong. If you think about every other sport, basketball, hockey, baseball, you name it, the coach is at practice and the coach is at the game. Now, I understand that in those other sports, the coach is allowed to coach during the game. But just because in tennis you're not allowed to coach it during the game doesn't mean you don't have to be there. Okay, you need to be there. You need to watch them. And so using a GoPro-like camera, right? There's different versions of it. And it's called the QM1 camera mount, which I'm going to go into later detail as to how this is the equipment where we're going to record the match. And what we're going to do is when the match is recorded, okay? It's going to be uploaded to a company called Tennis Analytics. All right, Tennis Analytics is someone I've been working with because they work mostly with professional tennis players. And the two main things that they do is that first they edit the video so that they can remove all the walking in between, so that you don't see the whole the picking up of the balls and everything, and you just see the point. It makes it really efficient to sit down and rewatch yourself, okay? Kids are busy, adults that are playing tennis are busy, and it's just hard to practice as much as you need to practice, do the work that you need to do, your jobs or your schoolwork, and sit down and watch a 2-hour match. And then if you play a couple matches that week, and maybe you have to do 2-3 matches, that like it's just not a lot of time. But if you can break it down to 20 minutes, then it's just easier to sit through that. It goes really quick. Then the second thing that they do is they provide a lot of statistics for that match. And they give those statistics to me, and I'm going to put those statistics in a customized report, which you can see on the screen there. And these statistics are facts about what is going on in the match, where the error is coming from, where the winner's coming from, what's your first serve percentage. I've worked with some players who told me I had a great serving match. And I'm like, great, maybe we don't need to work on the serve. And then the dad pulls out his chart and he goes, actually, you served 43% first serve percentage, which that's really low in tennis. And, you want to be in the high 60s. So, and then it's not even an argument anymore, right? It becomes fact-based. It becomes very easy to see on the tape as well. And the best part is that I will be tracking these statistics and these the improvements through monthly reports, through quarterly reports. And then it's really easy for me to see, hey, are you working on these things enough, right? The error count is still the same. The serve percentage is still the same. Something isn't working, right? And that's where we can take a look at things. This is what the pros are doing. And so if all the pros are doing it, where they have their coaches watching the matches in person, they're watching their own film, like every other sport. They watch their own film. They watch themselves play. The coach goes over the film with them, all right? And then they get stats back. So if they're doing it in every other sport, if the pros are doing it, then I want to be doing it too. There's a way to do it. We have access to it. So let's bring it to players, right? The top juniors in the world as well are using this, but a lot of people are missing this, and I want to help. Once we get the edited video, once I put together this customized report, which I do want to mention is that there's so many statistics that I can interchange them, all right? I can see which ones are more important for a certain player. Every player is different, so it's very important that we have the stats that they need. But after getting all this together, I'm going to go over this match review with the player. Okay, we're going to sit down just like we're doing right now on a Zoom call, and we're going to talk things out. We're going to see what their feelings were about the match, what they thought, and then we're going to look at the video so they can clearly see, hey, look at this point, look how you structured it at this point in the match, and we look at the stats to back things up, and it's just very easy to see and very easy to make improvements. So once you start to get all this, from here is where you formulate your practice plans for the weeks to come. All right. So that once you are getting these practice plans together, you're directly affecting the things that are going to happen in the match, right? You're directly doing what they need to work on in the match. So it becomes such an efficient practice week rather than throwing out some working on forehand volleys, because you missed 2 forehand volleys, but you only hit 2 forehand volleys a match. You're not losing a match because of your forehand volley, but maybe you missed those 2 and you think it's so important because it was one important point, but there's still so many other things that are more important before that one forehand volley. So this is the best way to do it. This is the way the pros are doing it. This is the way I've been doing it with Riley and Jay Berger. And I want to do this with other kids and even the adults as well. Using video as well, right? I can start to get a good look at the player, and we do technical analysis, right? Technical analysis needs to be done with the use of technology. Okay, it's being done in every sport. I even hear about it with someone I work with in youth baseball. They're using it in youth baseball, right? It doesn't have to be something that only the pros do. So we're going to use technology to get different angles of all the swings, right? We can do it in the match, and we can also do it in the practice, okay? Where you can hook up the same camera that I'm going to show later on. You can You can hook it up on the side of the fence or in different angles, or you can get someone to just simply hold it during the lesson or something, because I've learned this myself. A coach sitting on the other side of the court doing a private lesson cannot see everything that's happening, okay? There's things that happen from the side angle, there's things that happen from the back angle, and it becomes a little bit of guesswork. And I had to admit that to myself, because once I started putting things on tape, I was like, I never saw that, right? So it was great that I learned how to do it, because now I realize how much of a helpful tool it is. I use a tripod personally. It's a great thing for $20 that I can just set up, and it's been the best assistant coach I've ever had. It's incredible. So we can talk later on and get about things to do there. But then to sum it up, right, with the report, with the edited footage, with the technical analysis, I'm going to be writing up drills and things that need to be worked on. And then I'm going to get on the phone with the coach at home that the player is working with. I'm not looking to fire coaches, okay? I'm looking to help coaches. I'm looking to join a team of people, okay? Because it does take a team to make a player better. Parents are included in that, right? They're part of the team. So I want to help that coach. If that coach, for some reason, can't find the time to go to the matches and can't find the time to do the technical analysis and use technology and put together statistical reports, well, let me do it, okay? I'm going to help you. I'm going to guide you. And then this way, it's just the most efficient practice possible. We're going to all work together. So these are the main basic points that of how these services are going to work, and things that are not being done enough that need to be done. And I'm just going to go into first the junior packages, because there's a little more detail, and there's other things that I'm going to be providing as well on the junior side. And this is there's 3 packages where you get one of these, you're going to get these extra things that I'm going to help with. So the first one is tournament scheduling. Okay, tournament scheduling is a little bit of a science. It takes time. You have to make training blocks, tournament blocks. You play a certain amount of weeks in a row, and there's a purpose for that. There's a certain kind of rhythm that you need into playing practice matches, tournament matches. If you're going on vacation, that affects the schedule. You don't just come back and play a tournament the week after just because you've missed tournaments, right? You need to schedule some training again for a few weeks. And looking online, looking at all these tournaments, looking at these different levels, it's very time consuming, especially for parents who have full-time jobs. They have multiple full-time jobs, right? They have their own careers, but they're also full-time parents, right? And then they're picking up the kid and going everywhere. There's a lot on their plate. So let me help in that area. Let me just do that tournament scheduling. I'll provide everything, and it's just a lot easier. So the other thing I'll be doing is the pre and post-match phone calls to the player, all right? I'll be talking to the player before the match to make sure that they have clear strategies, clear mindsets. If they're nervous, how should we go about this? What breathing techniques to use, what strategies to use to keep you calm. And then I'll also be talking to them after the match.
Jean-Yves, you're
I'm down.
muted. Oh.
Am I muted?
Sorry, you lost audio for a second, but you're good now.
Good now? Okay, thanks. So I'll be doing those post-match calls so players, can get ready for their second match. And one of the things that is great about post-match calls, once we combine it with video, is that I get to hear the players' feelings, their thoughts about the match, and then I get to put it together with the video. And then I get to see how good was their match awareness, how good was what they thought was going on versus what's on tape. And then we can see, okay, does he just need to watch a lot more video too to see, get in tune with what's going on? So the pre and post match calls is something I'll be doing. 2 of the packages. Depth. It just depends on how things are going. It can be a 5-minute call. It can be an hour call. The most important thing is we all talk as a team. I would love for that coach to be that works with the player in person on the call, right? Because we're all working together. So if there's any questions or concerns about practice plans, tournament schedules, these are the times we can go over with it. So we're also going to be having monthly conference calls in 2 of the packages. Again, same thing. The more we communicate, the better, right? So that's why I want to put those monthly calls in there for those other 2 packages. package also has weekly calls, right? Nothing different, but just giving more opportunities. Again, there's one thing I've learned: the more we talk, the better, right? I speak with Riley's coach at home, Jay Berger, every day, even if it's a text message. If there's something more concerning, I'll call him. If I can't get a hold of him, I'm going to send him an email so he at least knows when he wakes up the next morning, this is what we worked on. That way, if he disagrees with something, or maybe I forgot something, right? And I forgot to work on something. It's very important for me to have somebody there to help me, right? We can't do everything alone, and the more we communicate, the better. I'll also be doing college recruiting assistance for the junior players. It helps to know what each colleges are looking for within their players. Some of the coaches already know from when I used to play, or from when I've been working with Riley, and they just have different things. And the sooner we know those things, the sooner we can plan accordingly. And we can map out a plan, right? It's best to not wait till you're 17 and a half to be like, hey, I want to go to a college, right? It's going to be a little bit late. And so that's that's the packages for those three: the IQ, the HP, and the Pro. And we also have this is a consulting package that's going to be available. Maybe you really love your coach at home. Maybe they're fantastic. They're doing a lot of good things, but they've never taken a player to the next level. And you're just looking for someone to help oversee things and provide some guidance. All right. So where maybe you're actually not doing any video because the coach actually is there at every match. That's great. Right. But maybe you're just looking for somebody else to join the team and make sure that the next steps you're taking are the right ones. That's where the consulting one comes in. There's just a bunch of weekly calls, tournament scheduling, and looking at everything like that. We're also going to be having an individual match that you can get where just if it's one match you were looking for, or one match you recorded, and you don't have any of these other packages, we can also take a look at one match. Personally, I think it's better if we do a couple matches, but I do want to provide that flexibility because, again, the more I see someone, the better I can coach them, the more I get to learn from them. And that's why, if you can see there at the bottom of the IQ package card, it says 3-month commitment required. This is because it takes time to get to know somebody. It cannot happen in a week. It cannot happen in 2. I prefer 6 months. That's usually what I would like, but I understand 6 is a big commitment. But I do know that you can't simply implement changes and they work right away. It's important to see what messaging the player receives well, but do those messages need to be reworked? Okay, it's not about the information, it's about how you relay the information. And it's a lot of trial and error with how to message things and how to structure certain practices. And that just takes time, and we're going to make mistakes, but the more I get to know someone, the more that I get to learn what to do and what not to do. For the adult packages, it's just more, it's simplified, right? Most adults don't really know. They play when they can, so they don't need this big tournament scheduling thing. So I just don't have that in there. They play their league matches whenever they can set up or have time away from their families. So we don't have the tournament scheduling in there. If that's something you're looking for, we can definitely talk about that and try to add that in. I don't have the college tennis recruiting because I don't think you're going to be eligible, but if you find a way to get back in, let me know. Maybe there's something we can do. But you do have the, and we don't have those monthly and weekly conference calls because it's just different. It's not so complex for an adult trying to structure things. With juniors, there's a lot of tournament scheduling, there's a lot of traveling. How do we do this or that? And it's just more complex. So that's why I put those calls in for the juniors. You still have your individual match on the adults as well. And then there's also a hitting review, which some adults just don't like to compete because it's just too stressful, but they love to play. They just love to hit, and they love the exercise for it. So I'm happy to take a look at how you're hitting and do some technical analysis and some reports. Pretty quickly, the equipment that I use, you can use, if you already have this, great. If you don't need to get anything, but if you do need to get it, then I use, instead of using a GoPro, I use it's the Akaso. So I'm going to show you here. Okay, everyone sees that screen? Okay, great. All right, so I'll just go over this. So this is the camera I use. It's just the Akaso V50X. I personally used it such a budget-friendly camera. You know, the GoPro can run up to $400 sometimes, or $500. I gave up looking because this one was so good at $100, and the battery life when you put it at a low resolution, which is still great, it's the battery lasts about 3 hours. So that should, if not more, so that should get 99.9% of junior matches. This is the best camera mount I've seen. The QM1 camera mount, you put it on the top of the fence. We can go more in depth on how to connect that, but yeah, the owner of the company is great. He's very responsive. So a lot of people have actually used it, and that's where I got the idea. Just two small little reminders is just to get a memory card for the camera. Something I learned, right? You need a memory card to store the video. If you can get one that's 128 gigabytes, that's great because you can record maybe 2 or 3 matches with that amount. It's roughly 30 gigabytes for a 2-hour, 40-minute match. So, you know, you want to have, especially if you're recording 2 matches in one day, memory card reader. Just for some computers already have this built in. This is the one I had to buy for my MacBook. And these links are, this is the memory card readers where you upload it to the computer. And then here's the tripod that I used. Again, that I just got it off Amazon. It's fantastic. I've had it for a year and a half. It's perfect. It still works great. And again, when you go on my website, there's a required link card, and there's links to all this. So you can use that. I just wanted to quickly show you this link where this is the where you're going to upload the file to Tennis Analytics. This is where they get the match. I'll go in more depth once you sign up, where just what to include here, and the email and the title and the message, things you need. But I just wanted you to take a look at the website. And then it goes on to this portal that's called Dartfish. And it's just, Dartfish is used in a lot of sports. And that match is there for at least a year. And then if we need it to stay there, we can ask them to keep it up there. But that way, both the player and I have access to that at any time. It's fantastic. I was considering using Dropbox. This is much easier. So my job is to not overwhelm the player and become too caught up with the analytics. My job is to try to relay the information in as simple a way as possible. It's very easy to get overwhelmed with the information, and I can provide 50 statistics, but it's not necessary, right? And that's where it's important for me to see, okay, how much can I give them without overwhelming them? But also, do I simply need to show them a drill and the stats really quickly and just move on to what we need to work on, right? Everything depends on how much I relay of each thing, and that just depends on the person. I think the younger they are, the simpler you try to keep it, not to overwhelm them. Keep it almost like a fun game, right? Like, hey, and maybe I don't even need to go too in depth on the numbers. Maybe I can just say, look, you're making more errors on your backhand when you're moving to the left and forward, you know, and that's it. I don't have to go too deep into it until they get older, or unless they ask, right? If they ask, they're interested. So, but then I still have to be careful. And that's where the feedback from the coach at home is very important, because if a player gets too caught up in thinking too many things on the court, they can also be frozen on the court. They think so much, they don't know what to think. So we have to keep things very efficient, do as many things as possible for the player, but for them, keep it as simple as possible.
Right.
So that's the trick, right? And that's why I ask for time to get to learn the person. Yeah, with anyone that wants to get started, we can obviously just have an introduction call. Talk things out. What are they looking for? Am I the right fit? Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. And a lot of times, I think what I want to try to do with this is, I know that what I'm giving or trying to offer is not for everybody. But what I want players to understand, because a lot of times coaches will sell a dream to keep the kid in the academy, keep the excitement, but they're not working hard enough, or they're not doing everything. And I at least want to show, okay, if you want to get that goal, I know how to get there. I know the things you need to do. This is what you need to. I just don't want them to. I want them to know what it was like to have gotten there, and then them themselves say, it just wasn't for me, as opposed to, well, I did my best, I'm not good enough. Because that I'm not good enough is a painful thing to say. All right, I retired after 4 years because I wasn't making grand slams. I had to be honest with myself. At some point, I got to make it or not. clearly, for now, I'm not good enough. But I know I did everything possible. So it was different. Like, I was happy with my effort. And so that's all I want. I want people to know this is what it takes.
These things. How specific do you get in terms of, all right, these are the drills we need to do? Is it like, yeah, I guess that's my question. How detailed do you get in those?
As specific as I can be. Sometimes it's a simple drill. A lot will be also based on my conversation with their coach at home or whoever is on the other side feeding the balls, right, and helping them. Do they understand the drill? Great. If not, I'm gonna do whatever it takes, right? If I need to put a video on myself and do the drill and bring a friend out and feed me these balls, I'm gonna do it, right? It's whatever it takes, because again, that's just one of the things that we do for the best players in the world, right? We do whatever it takes to show them what they need to do, and then it's up to them to do it. So I'll go as in depth until the point that they understand it. If they don't understand it, we'll just keep talking about it until we figure it out. A couple of things that inspired me to get to this level of detail was there's a lot of great information on YouTube, but it's not personalized. Coaching needs to be personalized. It needs to be watched by a coach. Just simply watching 700 drills, you can really confuse yourself. And if you don't have someone watching the video, which especially on the adult side, right, they go and they try all these things when they're playing by themselves, and it's just a disaster, right? And they might have good intentions, but they're still not even close to doing what the drill is, because a coach tries to make it look so easy within a 30-second video or a 1-minute video. It's not that simple, right? And so I got tired of these great online drills that really, they're not going to help. They're going to give you great information. It's going to be hard to make you a better player, right? Unless you're getting the coaching on how to accomplish that type of shot. What's the workup, right? What's the beginning phase, the middle phase? There's a workup from the beginning. It's not just do this. No, there's drills you do leading up to that. And I want to show those drills, right? I want to talk to them. I want to see their video when they hit. I want to really make it personal, because that's what coaching is. And also the other thing that inspired me was just I know what it takes to get there, and these academies are not doing it, and they're not owning up to it, right? It's just a fact. Someone asked me, they're like, hey, are any academies or coaches or people trying to help you advertise your new company? I said, they're probably not going to like what I'm saying, because I'm calling them out for saying you've started a numbers game, which is get as many kids on the court as possible into your academy and make as much money as you possibly can. Look, if that's your model, great, but just sell that you're doing a physical education class that is including tennis. You're not there to develop players. You can't develop a player with 9 kids on a court, right? At some point, they need to play a practice match on their own. Well, if you don't have you need courts for that, or you need less kids to be able to spread them out, right? Or you need to be honest and say, look, Johnny, you're coming here 4 days a week, and then you go play your tournament. The honest fact is you need to play some practice matches. Now, I can't offer that to you here, but I know you need to do it. So don't come here 1 day a week or 2, and please set up a practice match. That's lost revenue for the academy, better for the player, right? No one is saying that. No one is saying don't come. You need to do something else that we can't give you. But it's what they need. And that's all I want to give the players. Give themselves the best chance to maximize their potential, to see how good could I have been, right? This whole I'm not good enough, when it's not that they're not good enough, it's that their coaches are failing them because they're too focused on making as much money as possible, right? That needs to change. We need to restructure how tennis development works, even if it hurts the pocket a little bit. Or maybe these coaches can just restructure things to where the revenue just comes in differently. But we need to start doing what's best for the player, because that's what the best juniors in the world are doing, right? They work in small groups, 4 to 6 kids spread out on 2 to 3 courts, and they have 2.5 hours, and they're playing practice matches every week. They're getting full court drills in. I know kids at 15 years old that never did a full court drill, just by themselves for 10 minutes straight, no rest, get the fitness level up, run side to side, work on your patterns, right? They do half court drilling all day long, and they interchange with the 4 other kids waiting in line behind them. It's okay for a little bit, and it's okay to a point. But if you want to develop a player, and you're gonna tell them that you got to play tournaments because you have a dream of playing college tennis, well, then you got to prepare them to play full court matches. You got to prepare them to do full court drills, because that's what they're going to be experiencing. right? If you don't practice what you're going to play, how can you be ready for Saturday or your tournament day? And yeah, I just got tired of seeing it. I got tired of seeing it, and I got tired of not being home to be able to do it until I found this platform to provide more guidance.